Good morning, everyone. That was awesome. No, no pressure. Anyway. My name is Eduardo Cantu. I'm a second-year physics PhD student here at MIT, and I would like to thank you for having me here. So let's start. This year's theme for the MLK celebration is student power. And to be honest, being selected for the graduate address was a very big surprise to me. Mostly because up until last year at MIT, I went from feeling truly powerless to realizing that I have a lot more power than I realize. But the thing I am proudest is that I learned how to help empower others. And I hope that by the end of our chat, you will also learn that you have more power than you realized. But let's go back to the beginning. Yeah? When news first got out in my undergraduate school about me going to MIT, I was going to as part of the Bridge to PhD program. Faculty and graduate students alike kept telling me how much I will learn and how I would grow both academically and professionally. It felt like winning the lottery. After a local news story, people will approach me on the street and congratulate me for making it out and to please go back and save them. You see, I knew the sentiment too well. You would too if you were born in the city of Brownsville, Texas. A small city in Texas on the border by the sea. More than 35% of residents in Brownsville live under the poverty line, the highest poverty rate nationwide, according to the 2014 US Census. And it was also the least educated city in 2015, with the lowest percentage of high school diplomas and higher degrees. While this celebration was going back at home of me coming to MIT, I didn't want to be defined, to have my defining characteristic at MIT to be my background. I was afraid that my upbringing would be used against me if I didn't know something in lab or in class. To my surprise, MIT has felt like a family to me, made of people from all levels of the institution. Some people like, I need to stop and say some people, Ed Bertinger, who opened the world to me, and Monica Horta, that I think is somewhere here, and a lot more people that I couldn't end the list today. Acme, of course. And later, when I was admitted into the PhD program, I didn't hesitate in saying yes to MIT. And I can only hope that I can say the same type of yes when I get married. But even with all this support, it didn't prepare me to last year when my worst fears came true. You see, Texas shares the border with the state of Tamaulipas on the Mexican side, one of the most violent states due to drug-related violence. My family has experienced this violence firsthand while I have been here at MIT. And like many others, they have been forced to leave everything behind and move to the US with the hope that they can be safe. While growing up in Mexico, this felt very normal. It was like just business like usual. But now at MIT, I was able to feel and see with a different lens. And it gave me a little bit of objectivism to the whole situation. And it left me feeling powerless, completely powerless, because I felt like I was so powerless and scared that if something were to happen to them, I would have to leave everything that I was doing at MIT to go back to my family and pick up the state, if ever anything happened to them. I must confess that I followed the textbook's example while at MIT of what not to do. I kept it to myself. I allowed myself to wear a mask around MIT, and even at home while my family kept traveling to Mexico. It was impossibly difficult for me to share it even with my own MIT family, and I started isolating myself even at work. It was difficult because I felt like by opening up, I would just perpetuate a stereotype of violence in Mexico. But I couldn't stay quiet and let people like Donald Trump characterize Mexicans and Mexican Americans as rapists and criminals. Unbeknownst to me, across the country, people were engaging in a similar conversation. A Facebook poll in 2015 showed that the two top political issues discussed were both racial issues and immigration. So I decided to be more active. I decided to do my part and bring that conversation to campus and get to know the students around me. During my conversations, I noticed that even though MIT has come a long way in terms of gender and diversity inclusion, there is still a long way to go. Domestic unrepresented minorities at MIT constitute 14.2% of the total graduate student population. However, most underrepresented minorities pursue master's degrees, and being a PhD student, I have certainly noticed that. Getting to know people around me allowed me to connect to other Mexicans and Mexican Americans, both undergrad and grad, at MIT, Harvard, and other places. And I found them extremely passionate about science. And just like me, they share my concern for Mexico's problems, as well as diversity in academic circles. I also learned that some of the graduate students had started an effort called Clubes de Ciencia, or science clubs in English, to confront these issues, and I joined them in a heartbeat. Although we were very excited about this, our priority is still our lab, or grad students at the end of the day. So we needed to be efficient about this. So how do I do it? Well, we basically approached it the same way we approach any problem in lab. If you want to fix something in your lab, you got to characterize it first. And for that, you need to know 3 facts about drug cartels. Number 1 is that drug cartels in Mexico employ close to 500,000 people across the country, making it the 5th largest employment industry in Mexico. Number 2 is that the average drug cartel member is 18 years, didn't finish middle school, and lives in extreme poverty. And number 3 is that Mexico loves entrepreneurship. Mexico has the largest number of self-employed citizens in the world. It's 25% for men and 17% for women. So it comes as no surprise that when you interview the criminals that got convicted to drug-related crimes, 75% will tell you that they have high interest in starting their own business, which lets you know that if there's something that they hate more than the law, is their boss. And MIT knows a thing or two about entrepreneurship. We have seen MIT grads create companies such as Intel, Dropbox, and my personal favorite, video game company Harmonix, creators of Guitar Hero. How does MIT do this? Well, by providing the skills, mentorship, and resources necessary for students to achieve their goals. So that meant that our goal was very clear: to empower high school students in Mexico before they stray away into a life of crime. We do it by bringing scientists and engineers from all over the world to Mexico in the form of 1-week workshops. It is in these workshops where students empower themselves with knowledge while they build their own lasers, photograph the curvature of the Earth with aerostat balloons that they build themselves, and learn about neuroscience with worms that they grow themselves. That's not that. This fact that they kind of experience and build things that they only imagine really opens their world. For example, we had a grad student from Caltech. He got a very successful biophysics workshop, and his name is Manuel Razo. However, what students remember the most about this experience was not the techniques, it was not the concepts that they learned from him, but the fact that he learned exactly those same techniques and concepts when he was in our first Club de Ciencia 2 years ago. The students loved it. And so far, we have had the benefit and privilege that we have reached more than 1,000 students so far in 9 different cities in 3 different countries. In closing, I want to remind everyone that you have a lot more power than you realize, and that only together we can fix the problems of today. But you have to do something. You have to volunteer, you have to sign up, you have to cooperate. And in the words of Martin Luther King, if you can fly, then run. If you can run, then walk. If you can walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. Thank you.